Welcome to Appliance Tech tutorial. This is another service call out video that I'm sharing. I've been called to come and assess this fridge freezer. This is a frost-free fridge freezer, which means that it's using air circulation to cool stuff in the fridge and to freeze stuff on the freezer. This is an old model brand of KIC. You can see the model number, serial number, the freezer capacitor and the refrigerator, the total capacitor, the amount of R12 gas we should put, and the rated voltage and frequency for this fridge. There are a few things to check on a frost-free freezer inside the freezer compartment. First, the heating element, then the temperature sensor, then the defrost clicks in, and also the motor of the fridge. I can see that pink is live and blue is neutral, going to the motor. When I spin the motor is running fine, which means that the stator and the armature is fine. So when this motor runs, it blows air inside the freezer compartment through the vents that you see, and also blows that air to the top to the vent that you see. This is the vent for a fridge. This is a thermostat that senses the temperature in the fridge and switch it off when the temperature is met. It switches off everything when the temperature is met. This is the cover that vents air into the fridge. This is a plastic plate that either closes or open depending on what amount of air we want. We set it on that plastic cover. So that is how the fridge of this fridge freezer works, and also the freezer as I have explained. At the back, when I started the fridge, the compressor started and stopped, so that told me that this compressor is not working, needs to be replaced. This compressor runs with the R12 gas, but when I opened, the gas that came out was R200, and there was a lot of that gas. So that tells me that this fridge is not leaking on this inside the pipes. It's just that the people or the technicians that came before me didn't know their story. In the meantime, I can see that the compressor is broken because it was overcharged and it was charged with the wrong gas. When I started the fridge, the motor didn't run when the compressor was running. So I decided to wire the motor directly from AC and see if it will run. Now I wired the motor and the motor is running. So that means the motor is fine. The sensor is fine, the defrost clicks in is fine, and the element is also fine. I've checked all of those things. Only the compressor that is not working and that needs to be replaced. But I noticed something. When the compressor was running, the motor wasn't running. So that means there is a problem to the timer, because through the pink wire, the timer is supplying the motor, not only the motor and also the compressor. So I need to check at the back on these wires. I need to check which wire from the timer that goes to the compressor and then goes to the motor. So once I figure that out, I will then check why the motor wasn't running. But on this case, to make things simple, not that hard on this video, I've traced these wires. What I saw here is that the guys that came before me, they bridged the compressor to make it run without being run by the timer. So that is why the compressor was running when I plugged the fridge, but the motor wasn't running. So on this case, I can't conclude by saying that the timer is not working. I need to get to the timer and see for myself if is the timer working or not. What I'm trying to do here now is to trace the wires that goes to the timer, live and neutral, and also the wires that comes from the timer. I know that the timer will receive electricity through live and neutral and then gives us electricity through two wires. The first wire will give us electricity when we are on a frost cycle. The other wire will give us electricity when we are on a defrost cycle. Since the frost cycle is longer than the defrost cycle runs the compressor and the motor inside the freezer compartment for hours. In a period of 30 minutes or 45 minutes, depending on the timer will activate the heating element. I couldn't get these wires that goes to the timer and out of the timer easily, so I decided to make a plan which was removing the timer from the bottom of the freezer. This timer was installed in the bottom of this freezer, so I managed to get through this timer. So what I'm gonna do with this timer, I am gonna wire it direct, put live and neutral, put the timer on defrost cycle and see if the timer gives me electricity, and set it again on frost cycle and see if it gives me electricity. So on this timer 1 and 3, it's where live and neutral goes. So when it's on defrost, it should give me power either on 2 or on 4. When it's on frost, it should change. If it gave me power on 2 when it was on defrost, it now should give me power on 4. If it gave me power on 4, it should change and give me power on 2. I did check the timer and the timer is not working. So two things that must be bought for this freezer, it's the defrost timer and the compressor. If the client is happy with the price, we will buy those things and I will come and fit them on this fridge and wire this fridge from scratch. So that was it for this call out. I hope you learned something. If you feel like we've got the content that has value, please subscribe, like, comment, and share.